Okie dokies. Good morning, good morning. Welcome in. How we all doing? How we all doing? I did take into consideration some of the options of games yesterday. We took a little bit of a look on Steam at a bunch of different options, and I decided that there's a couple that are definitely going on the list, but it's Friday. It seems really silly to start a game on a Friday, especially since I know I'm about to take a couple of days off. So we'll probably start on Monday with something new. Haven't quite decided what. There's a couple on the list. But today we're going to just, potter around WoW for a little bit. There's some stuff I've been putting off for ages that is going to be really useful going forward. I've been putting off for flipping ages making some proper TSM groups and operations, because at the beginning of the expansion you just kind of hack it together, fix it whenever you need it to be fixed. You just got to get something up and running, usually fast, quick and dirty approach. But now we've got a little bit more time on our hands. It makes a lot more sense to me to maybe look at doing a proper job. So that's what we're going to try and do today. These groups I can easily then also throw up on TSM's website, so they're super easy for everybody to copy and paste in themselves if they want them as well. So that's the plan for today. I'm probably going to take it sort of a profession at a time. We'll see how far we get with this. And, a couple of other interesting groups, like maybe all the different recipes and interesting world drop items and that sort of stuff, maybe. But that's the plans for today. I weirdly, considering it is the 14th, it is the day of the Valentines, I'm actually not convinced I'm not necessarily convinced there's a huge amount of Lovers in the Air related stuff I need to do. In fact, I think due to previous years hunting down this damn love rocket, we might have actually also done everything to do with Lovers in the Air. It might be... Oh. Donate 50,000 gold to the Artisans Consortium in support of the Gala of the Gifts. Okay, well, there's one that I clearly... there's one I clearly haven't done. And almost out of principle, I'm not doing it, because that's just scumbaggy. But deliver all of the following gifts to the lovely guests at the Steam Pool Resort. This is something I haven't done. I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, well, maybe we can get a little bit of the Lovers in the Air stuff done as well. I spent a bunch of time yesterday flying around, getting a bunch of basic patron orders and stuff crafting. Also noticed that there's a handful of characters that if I want them to be in the best shape they can be for 11.1, I need to log on to them daily and do some basic Patreon stuff. So we might need to quick fire through some of that as well. Coffee is cooking. I hope everybody's having a good Valentine's Day morning. I'm assuming plenty of people might have plans in some way, shape or form. You received a superb beast fang. Wait, hold up. Did I get a resourcefulness proc? Did I get a resourcefulness proc on a beast hide? That's funny. What are these things worth these days? 600 gold a piece. Oh, well, we'll take that. That's a cheeky little bonus proc. Don't mind if I do. Good start. Public orders. Unstable Elementium. Hello? Really? Wow. Okay. Sure. 400, 200 gold, 200 gold. Yoink. Bet nobody ever expected those to be created. Strengthens the power of a primordial stone, increasing its item level. Huh. What in the world is people doing that for? Well, I ain't going to complain. How very odd. Does that pull for my 4 daily orders? It does. They're not... daily orders are clearly not... What's the word I'm looking for here? Expansion specific. Any plans for Valentine's Day? Well, it is Friday. So it's absolutely beer and pizza day. The answer is no, not really. Me and the wife will probably order some food. We will order some food. We have a few episodes of the Great British Menu to watch, which we will probably do this evening. And I have decided, even though I've got into quite the habit of daily streaming, that I will take a couple of days off over the weekend and we can go do something. We've been together long enough that it's not necessarily overly, it's not overly desperate. We'll put something in the calendar and we'll do it. We'll go have a nice meal somewhere, do some shopping or something, the basics. None of these are going to get done. None of those are important to be done. Oh, that was jewel crafting. That's nice and easy, eh? Any goodies? A single flicker. Out of 6 possible work orders, only one of them hit the criteria to actually be crafted. So sad. So sad. Right. Settings. Profile. The wall within. Go. New profile. Right, let's get some of the basics up and running. Let's start with what we actually want. Right, we want a professions subcategory. We are going to need interesting items that may not necessarily fit into a category of themselves. Materials. I always like to separate these. Materials, we like to separate those. Recipes, maybe. I don't know. That'll do. And let's start with the basics. The one we love. The one we know. How are we doing, Woo? Welcome in. Welcome. Me and the Mr. CR, wedding anniversary is more of an occasion than Valentine's Day these days. Well, yeah, I think everybody deals with it differently, don't they? Interestingly, both me and Mrs. Manthias we've always celebrated like our anniversary, not wedding anniversary, but like the anniversary of the day that we got together, because we have like an exact date for that, and because it took us like the best part of 10 years to actually get married, it's kind of meant that our wedding anniversary is cool and all, but we still more so celebrate our actual anniversary. The wedding anniversary is just a nice cool event, it's imprinted on both our rings, for example. It's cool, it's prestigious and whatever, but like the actual anniversary is more important to us. So yeah, I understand. Once you've been together a while, you generally just pick like one event, don't you? All of the sort of the more corporate anniversary, corporate dates such as Valentine's Day are kind of cool and all, but we're certainly not going to go and pay double for a restaurant just because it's today. That sort of stuff doesn't matter. Finally back to the land of the living, work done for now, but jury service looms? Oh, you've been signed up for jury service. Oh God, that stinks. I'm lucky. I don't think I ever will actually qualify for jury service, because while I'm an official resident of Finland, I don't have like Finnish citizenship, which I think naturally excludes me from jury service. So I don't have to worry about that. But I kind of guess it could be quite fun. You got to hope you get like an interesting case, something interesting. Not some grandma that went 71 miles an hour. You want something interesting. Let me go grab my coffee. Hang on. Want yourself a nice juicy murder case or something. Something to get your teeth stuck into. Probably shouldn't see jury service in that kind of light, but I assume it could be quite fun. No corporate fraud cases. Yeah, you don't want some lawyer versus lawyer bullshit. You want like something with a bit of flavour, you know. Nice casual homicide or. Anyway, I'm glad you are well. Just in time, I suppose, for an 11.1. Have you been able to keep up with your little flipping adventure, documenting it and such? So that would be fun to see how that pans out. Now, once upon a time, TSM had the ability to make relatively basic predefined groups from the list of recipes, but I believe it was also only the list of recipes that you already knew, which is why I kind of thought that it was a bit annoying, because it then still meant you had to go through it manually anyway, at least from my perspective, where I want an all-encompassing setup. Hardly. Had planned weekly updates, as you know, but zero free time. Been posting pretty irregularly. Well, I mean, it's, you know, it doesn't need to be super regular. I mean, I've already noticed, I mean, as you probably have already, the vast quantity of materials I chose to pick up when I thought they were at their cheapest have already gone up by like 20-30%, and I've actually sold most of them already. And like my gold making per se for 11.1 is basically done. Like the patch isn't even out for a couple of weeks, and I've already made my gold. I'm happy. I might have another dip in. I might dip my toe in the water a bit more when the inevitable like early patch crash happens, before the raid spike often happens. I might dip my toe in there again, but I've already made a fair few million off the back of some early investment, so I'm happy. Your prices were probably much better than mine, and obviously in greater quantity, so I can't find any reason why your, if I remember correct, roughly 40 million investment won't make you another gold cap, or maybe even two. So, you know, it goes to show it's the way to do it. Knowledge is power. Create profession groups. Now this button's always been there, but it's always been kind of like, and even now it seems to have locked my game up completely by pressing it. Jewel crafting group updated with 1,297 items and 390 materials. Yeah, see, that's the problem. It's pulled everything. It's pulled absolutely flipping everything. And it dumps everything. It's just dumped everything into two groups. Yeah, that's why I don't use that button. That's why I don't use that button, and I don't recommend other people do. It's probably a good way to maybe start and filter from, but otherwise it's not great, is it? In a way, it probably might make building off this a touch easier. I wonder if I want to use this as the baseline, or is it going to be far too much like hard work because I've got far too much stuff on this character? Probably. Right, we'll try that again. In other words, I'll make them myself. Right, let's do this with a little bit of organization. So, reagents. Now this is where I need to make some decisions, because things like gilded vials end up technically being a material for many other things, but they are crafts of jewel crafting. So mat selection was very wide, so has not risen. Still worried about delve materials, a big liability there at the moment. Delve materials were the only one that was the major one or major category that I just ignored. Like, I was like, I can't predict exactly what's going on here. I don't know if there's going to be a huge influx in players doing delves or not. I'm not sure if delves are being ran in great quantities anymore. There was far too many question marks for me with delves and their respective materials. So I chose to leave them all alone. But I'd imagine most things have gone up by a reasonable amount. We had a little bit of a look yesterday. We had a flick through the auction house yesterday. And yeah, a lot of core materials have risen nicely already, as we expected they would. Sell to the speculators. Can you not do this anymore? Can you not shift click on the item anymore? Oh. Well, that's annoying. That used to be something you could do. Why have they removed that as a function? That used to be a really cool way to give yourself some nice pretty names. No? Okay. Well, that's annoying. Does it change if I have one in my bags? Do I have to do it that way? Let's get the auction house on the go. No, that doesn't work either. Well, that's annoying. Maybe then this just goes in a group called other, and we'll put the item in there. Basic reagents. All the gems will go in one because there's no reason to split them up, to be honest. Other than maybe looking to do ambers. Is it really worth doing that though? Splitting it up? I suppose it makes it slightly easier. Emeralds. I suppose based on the fact that you might, or at least when you're leveling up, you might choose to fully spec into one category of these. Rubies, sapphires. Sapphires has 2 Ps. I always spell it with 1 and get told off. And then blasphemites. Prism. You can't sell prisms, can you? They're bind on pickup. We don't need a prisms group then. Or do we want to? No, you're not going to want a prisms group, are you? Jewelry. Jewelry. We'll spell it their way. Raw food has finally started to rise though, which is a bonus as I have characters full of that stuff. We were talking about when was it? Yesterday? Day before? Can't remember. We were talking about feasts recently as well. I had to disclose the fact that I don't really know much about the cooking markets this expansion. I've not even leveled cooking, but I would imagine that there is going to be some interest in feasts for sure, because why wouldn't there? Once again, if you bought your materials at a cheap enough price way back when, it's nearly a cast iron guarantee. Feasts are actually one of the most explosive markets when the raid launches. Historically, I seem to remember. So they tend to be just like super cheap, super cheap, super cheap, super cheap. Then the raid launches and they get bought out, they get flipped, they go 4x the price for a day or two, and then they crash back down just as fast. But it was still a thing. If I can't actually use the TSM interface for much use here, I'm going to go back to the default one because it's just easier to navigate. My analysis showed that for patch 2 in Dragonflight, food overall had the greatest return on investment for flipping. So I invested loads, but bored people farm bees, so this expansion is slightly different. Well, bees obviously have the leather component, which is a big thing. Will enchants and gems be the same next season, or will there be new ones? Everything's the same next season. They've changed basically nothing. They've added basically nothing. The only thing that I actually almost want to jump on the PTR and have a little bit of a look at with my own eyes is that apparently enchanters are not even getting new crest recipes. By the looks of things, enchanters are no longer going to be... I still need to confirm this myself, but it doesn't even look like enchanters will be enchanting people's crests for them. That there might just be a vendor. Now, I know there's vendors on PTRs for ease of use, but there hasn't even been data mined new recipes, to my understanding, which is interesting because that might have quite a knock-on effect to the markets there. Well, it's not that the vendor, you're still probably gonna, I don't know how it's gonna work, but the crests are still questionable, and I need to research and find out more. Patch also releasing later than predicted, so people have had longer to be bored and farm as well. Or what I've seen a huge amount of now, obviously, I'm slightly biased here because I've done exactly the same, but like I've seen an awful lot of people just put the game down. Like there's only so much boredom that people will suffer through. There's lots of options out there these days. A lot of people, I feel, have put the game down. The attraction and appeal of Classic has been really strong recently because of anniversary servers and, like, you know, the popularity of OnlyFans. That single-handedly has probably driven huge swarms of people out of retail, at best into Classic. But yeah. Seems enchanting will never see another crafting order, just sell on the auction house directly. Well, the only reason crests really existed is so that enchanters would have some use for the work order system. It was a crowbar solution in the first place. And it's also clear that people didn't like it, right? Very clear that people just didn't like it. It was an extra step. It was an extra link in the chain that was just annoying to people. You know, Blizzard's philosophy for a long time has been that when you get a piece of or their philosophy has been this. They've not done a great job of actually implementing it, but they've always wanted this scenario of that when you get the chance to have an upgrade, whether it be a brand new item drop, you should be able to look at that item and determine, oh, this is good or not, without having to say, oh, well, this would be good if I do this or this or this or this on it. And so having too many steps in the process to upgrade your gear previously has been what they said they didn't want. But in my opinion, my personal opinion, gear crafting and gear upgrading is more convoluted now than it has ever been. Whether it be getting a piece of crafted gear, or whether it be upgrading your regular piece of gear, or whether it be understanding whether a trinket is good or bad, actually deciding where, and also more even deciding where to go and what to do to get your upgrades. Like, gear has never been more complicated as far as I'm concerned in retail. And I personally really hope they tone it back, because it's a bit ridiculous. And unfortunately, the first area in which they will tone it back will be crafting, without question. Without question. Now, I wanted to I spotted something yesterday. Have I still got the... Yes. I found a little thread. It's about 2 weeks old. I'd missed this. I don't keep my eyes on the forums all that much, but this thread got quite a bit of traction, which for a crafting related thread, this is over on the WoW official forums. A crafting related thread tends to not get much traction, but this for some reason started to pop off, and I wanted to have a little look at this today because this is quite funny. Somebody posted the epic fail, what's wrong with crafting and how to fix it. This was posted at the beginning of the month. I missed it. It wasn't brought to my attention. But so, hang on, what's this? Who wants what now? Oh, flipping out. People wanting rings. Let me just give this guy 30 seconds to see if he is interested. I'll go stand over by the table either way. But yeah, there's it's really interesting to see that many players are now slowly coming round to some of the things. This is patting myself on my back, if I'm going to be honest. This is a real pat me on the back situation here. But people are slowly coming round to the idea that maybe this work order system is trash. And that we could probably do better. How we get crafted bind-on pickups. We call the quote-unquote bots who constantly are posting in trade chat, and they're weak auras that are automatically replying to our requests. This current system makes it feel odd and synthetic. It takes away gear pride from consumers. Problem 2, I know enchanters or alchemists leveled enchanting or alchemy from expansion to expansion, but even some who are at skill 100 can't get max 3 enchants on their own items because they're lacking knowledge points. This forces them to go to the auction house and spend gold on their own enchants for their profession. The potion alchemists consumed aren't even maxed for their own use. Now this is kind of been semi-resolved by Blizzard anyway, this expansion. I have a sneaky suspicion that this character just doesn't really truly understand how concentration works, which is fair, because once again, Blizzard don't do a great job of explaining this sort of shit. But concentration still can only get you so far. If you've spec'd into flasks on your character, you're still not going to have great luck crafting potions even with concentration for yourself. So it's just being an alchemist isn't enough nowadays to be able to be fully self-sufficient. So this is kind of where they're coming from with this. Concentration sort of fixes it a little bit, but it's still not, oh, I'm an alchemist, I just make all of my own potions, which is kind of what I think they're after here, which is a little bit unrealistic. But they're talking about the work order system here and how it just feels trash. Let's talk about the first problem, which is the number one issue. Being a consumer, having to post in trade chat for a profession item is a very odd feeling for bind-on pickups. I also don't like how it works as a crafter looking for customers. Well, you mean you don't like the fact that there's absolutely zero in the game natively to help you with this? Oh, I wonder why. I think this could be changed for bind on pickups. Not all items, specifically bind on pickups that aren't crest items. Let's say I'm a tailor, a blacksmith, or a jewel crafter. I make an epic item at 567 item level. No sparks, no crests involved. I can place it on the auction house for a flat fee. I put the effort into farming or buying some of the mats. I'm setting my prices. The item can be scaled later by the purchaser. Literally what I was stating could and probably should be done ages ago. There's absolutely no reason why crafters shouldn't be able to use their expertise to craft items and then price them accordingly and sell them on the auction house. It's worked for 20 years in this game. It wasn't particularly broken. It didn't need fundamentally removing. And I made a big stink of the fact that when we went into Dragonflight, nearly 50% of all crafted items went bind on pickup overnight. From previous expansions where maybe there was like 1 or 2 bind on pickup items that you had to be that profession to get, right? We all knew about those mages that felt obligated to have tailoring so they could make themselves their own pants because they were bind on pickup. And some people felt forced into some professions based upon their end-game activities. And so Blizzard was like, okay, well, the solution is work orders. But in doing so, they also nuked crafters' abilities to pre-craft things and list them for sale. They made the system harder to make the system fairer, if that makes sense. It's weird. But people are now just frustrated by it. As the customer, I buy this lower level BOE epic from the auction house or a guildie. I didn't have to wait in trade chat to find a crafter. Then I will empower it myself because empowering items is fun. Hey, look, that word that we don't give anywhere near enough value to in this game anymore. Fun. We should be doing shit because it's fun. You know what's really fun? Is taking a piece of gear, doing a big magical animation, and that piece of gear then all of a sudden becoming much stronger and you can go do more damage, right? Super fun, right? How can I find alchemy knowledge more than treasures and vendors? Patron orders. You'll get a bunch of orders per week that will give you knowledge points, and up to 3 knowledge points per day, depending on how far behind you are. Right-click an enchanted crest, drag the item to raise its item level and make it bind on pickup. Oh my god, this feels great because now I'm the one taking action. It feels like I've earned these item levels. I already like the crafting system much more. This does sound very, very much like Shadowlands base legendary items. In terms of the fact that you create what could easily be considered a base item to sell on the auction house. So they would need to be careful that they don't cause the same issue that they once did with Shadowlands legendaries. But the real problem with Shadowlands legendaries was that you had to make 45 pieces of trash before you were able to make the thing that everybody actually wanted. You were kind of forced into making large quantities of very expensive items just to level up. You know, it was the leveling cost of Shadowlands legendaries that really frustrated most players. Why should it take half an expansion to level my profession? If you want completion, yeah, it takes a good 6 months. But it's clearly a decision from Blizzard to make the profession something that you just chip away at slowly but surely. I do think there could definitely be a middle ground with this, though. I didn't like... In a way, I didn't like the days where you would literally day 1 of the expansion, level your profession to full, and then you were basically done for the rest of the expansion. This meant that people would do it and then completely put it down and forget about it, and it was much of a nothing for a long time for a lot of people. The flip side, I'm equally not quite as much, you know, I'm equally not totally sold on the fact that it should take 6 months to finish a profession. I still, to this day, really liked the Legion system, where you kind of had a bit of a combination of both. The Legion system, which would allow you to level up your profession relatively quickly without too much complication, but then you would build your expertise on certain recipes. I mean, that concept is clearly what we now have with the knowledge point system. But they are then drip feeding you knowledge so slowly, and then people are now back in Legion, you were just getting like 1-star, 2-star, 3-star ranks for your recipes. People never really in Legion felt that they had to get all 3-star recipes. If they felt that if their bar said 100, that they had leveled their profession. These days, people don't feel that they've leveled their profession even if their bar hits 100. They feel that that's like just one of the things on the tick sheet to do before they've leveled their profession. So people now are attaching different criteria to the professions than they once were, I think, which is a problem. Makes it hard to compare. I dislike that some of the recipes are really rare, like the enchant from Ansarek. Haven't seen it drop yet, and I've killed it nearly every week. It's on the auction house, though. It's on the auction house. You have to have rarity on some of these items. You have to have rarity on some of these items. Otherwise they hold no value for anybody. I think their balance on rarity when it comes to recipes is absolutely spot on in the War Within. We don't want an elemental lariat situation because that was too far to the realms of rareness. That was too much because it was both super duper mega rare, which led to it being monumentally expensive if you needed to purchase the recipe. But it was also simultaneously a best in slot item for basically the entire game. That in essence is too far. Where it is right now, I think, is about right. There is no recipe that's really super mega difficult to get. There are some that are worth more because of the way that they're acquired. There are some that are a little bit more frustrating, like the enchant from the Awakening the Machine is a little bit frustrating. But I'm quite sure if you were actually religious on your enchanter and did Awakening the Machine every week, you'd have definitely got it by now. I think they've got the balance about right now. If everything was too easy to get, nothing would have any value, which causes its own problems. Let's not forget. So. Never seeing it other than purchasing off the auction house feels shitty to me personally. But the thing is your perspective on that is that you haven't got it, and even if you have killed it nearly every week, let's assume that you've had 20 chances for it. 20 chances for something to drop, for it to not have dropped, you know, is not actually outrageously bad. You might have just been unlucky. And like I said, if everybody could kill the boss 3 times and get the recipe would be worth 500 gold. And then you wouldn't care if you get it or not, because everybody else has already got it. You got to understand that there's that balance between the two. And so you need some element of rarity to these items to make them worth having in the first place. Any news about the artisan security bags for recipes? Well, there's no new recipes, so there's nothing really to fish for in those bags. There's I really don't know what what their goal was with Professions in 11.1. I feel as if we've had even less love than the PvP community this time round, which is difficult. Do you think you can still get Season 1 recipes out them once Season 2 starts? Oh yeah, I don't think they're going to change the loot table in any way. In fact, I think that runs the risk of being the main source for people to get those recipes, because let's not forget, once people leave the current Season 1 raid to go do the Season 2 raid, there'll be substantially less people running the Season 1 raid, meaning the amount of people that do get those recipes to drop from the bosses by running last season's raid will decline. The main source for those recipes will probably end up being those 600 artisan security bags, as crafters have nothing else to spend the artisan security on and just use it as a loot box. In that regard, we might actually see some interesting thing happen with Season 1 recipe values, especially considering Season 2 isn't introducing anything new. So Season 1 recipes are still likely to be BIS in Season 2, but people's ability to get the recipe is going to be far less because they won't be running the place where they drop, which could be quite fun to see how that plays out, at least anyway. We do want that. I was first on my server, never made more gold. Yeah. Like, people, you can easily be biased. You can easily be biased by making a lot of money out of something, thinking that you would love to see that again. But how frustrating will it be when that happens again and you don't get it, and then you see everybody else making all the gold, and you're like, now shit, this sucks. See, this is often what I think. People are quite quick to blame. If we were to flick through some of the comments on this, by the way, you'd be quite quick to notice that many players blame the new crafting system as the reason why crafting feels bad. And inherently, it's not the new crafting system, because I can guarantee you that if people were able to use the new crafting system and just print gold like they've never printed gold before, they'd think it's the best thing since sliced bread. People's opinion on whether the new crafting system is good or bad is very aggressively linked to how much gold they've been able to make with it. And if they're not able to make gold with it, it's shit. But if they're making gold hand over fist, it's fantastic. That's not necessarily the fault of the new crafting system. There is a lot of other factors at play here that have impact on whether you make gold or not. The biggest thing for me, and I've been thinking about this a lot, the biggest thing for me, without question, is that we are now a full expansion and a half deep into having the region-wide auction house for materials and commodity items. And it single-handedly means most players, even players who are able to make gold with crafting previously, are now just pushed out of the top people. Because there's only it's only the top percentage of crafters that will make any gold. The ones that are aggressively focusing on getting their materials the absolute cheapest they possibly can. Those that are crafting in huge, great big bulk to be able to swing the price of materials when they buy materials. Those who are also able to, like, in great levels of detail, keep track of their costs so that they know exactly what they can and cannot sell at what price. Those that have multiple accounts running many hours a day actually crafting the items in the first place to be able to achieve that level of scale. Because there's enough people who are willing to do all of that, it means that they're the ones that will hoover up all of the gold. They're the ones that will hoover it all up. It now has just pushed the bar so high that it's significantly out of reach for most people. Or not out of reach, but out of desire to reach. Every one of us could spin up 5 accounts and get them all crafting 12 things every day and build spreadsheets, but the reality is most of us don't want to. A little bit like the real world, capitalism wins. Yeah. And where we had microeconomies, where we had 100 microeconomies of every individual server having its own microeconomy, it was significantly easier for more people to rise high enough up the ranks that they would start seeing some of the profits. But now all of those people, all of those 100 realms have been put in one arena. You're still only going to get that top creme de la creme of players who will actually make all of the gold. And whereas there used to be room for, let's just put a number of 10 people, the top 10 people who were the best at crafting potions on every server would make all of the gold, right? You had 10 people on every server that were able to make gold with potions because they were the top 10 crafters on their realm. Across 100 realms, that could be 1,000 different people. Now you smush it all into one arena, the top 1,000 people are not making gold. So those very same people, it's probably now only the top 50 to 100 people that make all of the gold. And so that means 900 of those people who were previously putting in plenty enough effort, seeing great results from their crafting, making gold hand over fist previously, probably a good 900 of those are now not making any gold because the bar's moved up, right? Which leads many players to very correctly and very naturally point fingers at what changed. What changed? Oh, well, the new crafting system came in. That's what changed. Oh, well, it's shit because it now doesn't work for me. Not necessarily the new crafting system, to be honest. The crafting system is just a bit of maths. That's all it is. It's a simple little bit of maths. And once you know the numbers, you just got to do the maths when it produces a positive number. Craft the things that are profitable, sell them, that's it. There's a little bit of legwork to get them up and running, but most professions, it's get the profession to 100 skill, get your 3 pieces of profession gear at quality 5, which is very, very quick, very, very easy, and remarkably cheap to do now. And thirdly, then do a little bit of maths to make sure that you're calculating, make sure your knowledge points are in the right place, which usually is about 100 to 150 knowledge points. It's not actually that difficult to get to the point where you stand a chance. The game's not built for average Joe who maybe has a couple of hours a day to play, being it raiding or crafting. It's built in mind to extract as many dollars from people as possible. Yeah. It's, as far as crafting is concerned at least, the bar has lifted very high, which will put lots of players off. It will also cause lots of other players to try different things. I'm sure there's lots of players who made a bunch of gold with crafting previously that are now looking at other things, whether that be boosting, whether that be cross-realm arbitrage. That's a real popular one these days. It feels real bubbly. It feels real bubbly, a lot of that now. K-Chak's done an incredible job of sort of showcasing to the masses, that if you buy recipes on cheap realms and try and sell them on less popular realms, there's a strong chance of making a bunch of gold by doing that. But it feels very bubbly because I start to have the suspicion that all of these people are just circle jerking, buying from themselves. We'll see how long that luxury lasts. But like most things that end up on YouTube, there's a buzz around it for a while, and then 3 weeks later nobody's doing it, and so it's back to profitable again. But also, unless you're willing to dedicate huge amounts of time specifically to this one aspect of the game, you really don't stand a chance anymore, which is really quite tough. It's really tough. And I think crafting gets a lot of negative press due to, if you think about PvP, for example, what happens in the PvP side of the game? What happen, like if there's significant changes to how arena works or how you get your PvP gear, that only really affects people who are heavily invested in that side of the game anyway. If you're heavy into, PvP, then they change they give you a new arena map, or they change some of the things, then that affects you directly. The issue with crafting is it's probably the smallest niche market in the game, or one of them. Very, very few players will state current company excluded here, but like very, very few players will say that they predominantly focus on crafting. Most people, when asked what they do in WoW, they'll tell you they do Mythic Plus or they do Raid. And a bunch of them will dabble in PvP, but very, very few people will turn around and say, yeah, I love playing with the professions. You probably have more collectors than you do crafters and like goblins these days. But the difficulty is you can make changes in Arena and it affects PvP players. You can make changes in Mythic Plus and it affects people that do Mythic Plus. When you change crafting, it still affects everybody. Absolutely every single person in the game is in somewhat shape or form affected by anything that changes with crafting, even though most of them don't care to engage with it. If you're a big-time Mythic Raider, changes to how the crafting system works affects you, because it might affect how you gear up, it might affect what you need to do to get the best gear, it will affect what you need to do to be able to do the Mythic Raids. If you're big on PvP, you still need to get your gear crafted, you're still going to need to get your enchants, ergo, crafting matters to you. Crafting matters to everybody in the game, yet so few people actually care vividly for it, is why I think it gets a lot of negative press. Because everybody doesn't want to do it, and everybody sees it change, and everybody sees it as overly complicated, and nobody wants to deal with it themselves. And so they just want it changed. They just want it back to how it used to be, where they spent one day leveling their profession at the beginning of the expansion and then didn't think about it again. Which I don't know how Blizzard really deals with. And I hope that when Blizzard look and take feedback of this nature, that they don't they don't get too blasted by the negativity that gets thrown at crafting. But we'll have to see how it goes, where it goes. Then they go and do 11.1 and do nothing with crafting whatsoever. Which is, I don't know. Why is Q5 on profession gear important to say Q4? Well, yeah, quite simply, more stats. The more resourcefulness, the more multi-craft, the more ingenuity, the more stats you have, just like item level on regular gear. Just like item level on regular gear. The more haste you have, the more spells you can cast. The more crit chance you have, the bigger your big numbers are, the more damage you do. It's exactly the same on the profession gear. The more resourcefulness you have, the more multi-craft you have, the better your crafting prices are, or the lower your crafting prices become, meaning it is easier for you when you then go to sell that item to extract some profit from it. So much so that we're in a position now where if you don't have Q5 profession gear, I mean, even if you do have Q5 profession gear, it can be tough to find things to make a profit with. So anything less than a BIS build, you just got to get that BIS build first. That's like the first thing you have to tick. Don't worry about like what's going to be profitable or anything until you've got a full BIS setup these days. Because everybody else already does have that BIS setup. Everybody already has their profession at 100. Everybody already has, everybody's already got this bar full. Everybody's already got fully leveled up, optimized tools here. Everybody's already got their spec tree fully kitted out, min-maxed. Everybody's already got these things ticked off. And everybody that's already done all of it is competing with each other. And even between them, you know, it's a bit of a circle jerk with who wins. So if you in any way, shape or form are missing something, that's the thing you need to fix first. And it can be something as simple as quality 4. You know, if you've still got quality 4 tools up here, you might have 10, 15, 20 less resourcefulness than somebody else. And over 1,000 crafts, that could be adding 2% crafting cost to your items by not having that extra resourcefulness. So, yeah, you need more stats. I don't have issues with crafting. I have the issues with the region-wide auction house. Yeah, I think a lot of people would, if they really sat down and thought about it, agree. This is an argument that Blizzard really needs to consider at this point. This is like, make public crafting orders set a minimum item quality when they place a personal order. There's good reason why this wasn't the case throughout all of Dragonflight and isn't the case now. But Blizzard don't really have a solid excuse as to why not to implement this now. Now that we're deep enough into the expansion for it to be entirely possible for most people to be able to craft things at quality 5, it is somewhat deemed, it should be now somewhat acceptable that nobody wants quality 1 through till 4. I genuinely feel bad for people that get stuff crafted via public orders. And I think that what mostly happens is somebody will put in a public order, they'll get their piece of gear crafted nearly instantly, it'll come back at quality 3, and they will look at it and go, well, that's fucking dog shit, I'm never doing that again. And I think that's fundamentally what happens. The I just want a piece of gear and I want it quick via public work orders was the big sell. That was the reason, right? That was the reason why public orders were structured the way that they were. They wanted to make it so that you could get something quick, and more importantly than that, they wanted lower level crafters to have something to do. One of the reasons in Dragonflight they didn't do this is because every single public order would have requested quality 5, which would have in essence meant that everybody leveling up their profession would have absolutely nothing to do. And let's not forget that in Dragonflight there was we didn't have patron orders to top up your knowledge points. We didn't have a catch-up system. But in the War Within, with the addition of the catch-up system via patron orders, we are now at a point where there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't allow you to set equality on public orders. Seems to be a bit of an important hill for Blizzard to die on. It does. It does. And I understood their stubbornness to change on that in Dragonflight. I understand why they didn't do it in Dragonflight, because there's more pieces of the puzzle that when you put them all together, it would have skewed the whole landscape. But now that we're an entire content patch in the War Within, we also have patron orders as a way for those who are still leveling their professions to catch up and fill orders. And I've not been doing many work orders for people, mostly because I've not spec'd my professions into crafting gear. But secondly, there is not a single person out there that ever wants or expects anything less than quality 5. It's not even discussed anymore. Like, what quality can you craft something to isn't even discussed. People are like, I want this. And the assumption is that you can craft it at the top quality. And if you can't, you're just going to fuck somebody over. And and annoy people. Like the assumption these days is that if you say to somebody, I can craft that, the assumption is you can craft it at quality 5. And if you can't, don't be wasting their time, is the honest answer. And so with that in mind, more than anything, and the fact that we now have, see, this is where Blizzard not doing anything themselves is shooting themselves in the foot. Now, Craft Scan is really good. Actually, I would go as far as to say that Craft Scan allows players to get personal orders crafted and fulfilled faster than public orders, which was meant to be the advantage public orders had. It was kind of orchestrated to be that public orders would be your way to get your piece of gear very quickly without any real friction, but there was the inherent risk that it would be made by a lower skilled crafter and you might need to recraft it at a later date. But the priority of using public orders was that it'd be basically instant, because there'd be people standing there waiting to fill orders. The reality is now is crafters using Craft Scan don't need to sit around casually waiting in trade chat or even spamming their own stuff in trade chat. That this add-on will just like pick something up, boom, here's a thing, somebody wants this, boom, right, let's go. Because Blizzard didn't do this, somebody else has come along and made a fantastic little add-on that does it for you, which basically nullifies the perceived advantage of public orders in the first place. If they throw in minimum quality orders, most orders are going to be the lowest quality materials but max ranks items. Yeah, but those items are then never going to get made, right? That's a problem that people will figure out themselves. You know, the fact will be is that crafters physically won't be able to fill those orders, so they won't get filled. And people will very quickly realize that, well, that's not even possible. It's a touch of frustration, sure, from the buyer's side, but people learn very quickly. And more than anything, somebody will whisper them and tell them, this doesn't work. You need to send Q3 mats if you want it at this quality. And then just send me a personal order and I'll get it done for you straight away. Crafters are more than happy to do the customer service and get people their gear, because even if it's for a resourcefulness proc, crafters will do it, right? But it's not so. The pros far outweigh the cons now, I think. Love somebody showing off their OG Bruto. I still see a few of them dotted about. I still see them running around. Whoa, that is an outfit. Yo. OG Longboy. And one hell of a Mog setup. I like it. Most are pretty trained to use Q3 mats for crafts anyway. They even end up doing it for crests. I've not done a huge amount of work orders because it's not my jam, but dual crafting seems to have an awful lot of demand for the amulet and the ring, and I've banged out a whole bunch of these over the weeks. I don't think I've had a single person turn up with any less than Q3 mats ever. People don't. People have just learnt, like, this is the thing. Most people have just learnt now that you just got to give, like, and I said this at the beginning of the expansion, there's absolutely no room for any less than quality 3 mats. And so that will just, you know, patterns form, right? And people just learn. People who are putting in work orders, people who are looking to get pieces of gear crafted, at this point in the patch, this isn't their first rodeo, right? People who are still actively gearing their characters and getting crafters to make things for them, you can guarantee it's not the first time they've asked for a piece of gear to be crafted. So they kind of know that, all right, Q3 mats are basically mandatory. And the interesting thing is what you'd hope is that would also teach those players slowly but surely that, well, maybe if I level the profession, maybe I can do it cheaper because I can then use Q2 mats and I can use my concentration. I was somewhat convinced going into the expansion that crafters would be proactively selling their concentration The reality is that's not really happened. Because it's just another thing to deal with in the already relatively complex chain of getting a piece of gear crafted. As I mentioned, the reality is now is if somebody says they want a piece of gear, if you can't craft that piece of gear at maximum quality, if you don't have a BIS setup to do that, you probably just shouldn't even whisper them, because there'll be 5 people whispering them who can do it at max quality. So don't even bother. You're just wasting your and their time. If somebody puts an order in with you and then you can't actually craft it with Q5, the only thing you could do, you just need to know your own game first, right? If you can't craft something at quality 5 without concentration, you need to know that you have the tools to do it at the quality 5. Either you have enough concentration to do it, or you're willing to use extra finishing reagents in order to make sure that you get that extra bonus skill. That's on you. But from a buyer's perspective, you've got to be doing it at top quality, because there's 50 other people that can. The higher quality mats are often cheaper than the concentration, and it makes it less complicated for the customer. Yeah, crafters now are more inclined to use concentration on crafting something that can then be sold on the auction house. And crafters who know what they're doing also know how to value their concentration now. Mostly thanks to Craft Sim. Actually doing that without Craft Sim would be an absolute flipping nightmare. But the fact that I can now go and try and craft a gem using Q2 mats, throw my concentration on there, and I can have a Craft Sim module that literally tells me, which one is it? Where's it gone? I thought it was the average profit one. Where's it gone? Yeah, here we go. Now I can very quickly see, right, I'm getting nearly 5 gold of value from each point of concentration spent on this item. And there's, you can go do a recipe scan and you can find out where's the best use to spend your concentration. Crafters don't need to quote unquote sell their concentration to other players. And that's predominantly because Blizzard made the smart choice to allow everybody to get to the point where they can guarantee top quality gear without concentration, which is a stark difference to Dragonflight, where there was, you would, obviously we didn't have concentration, but you had to rely on ingenuity, and that whole thing was just gross. It was especially when the fundamental way to get gear was via an order. It was, yeah. I really do think they got a few things wrong in Dragonflight, but they have definitely improved them in the War Within. But there's still definitely improvements to make. What does Boris want? Boris wants blacksmith with undeath metal. Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't have that. I've not done Nax anywhere near enough to have that, but that's an interesting request. Anyway, yeah, to come back to this original post, it's a whole bunch of people chiming in from various different angles, but the conclusion to all of this is that players are now starting to just get... It's very clear that players are just getting wildly frustrated with crafting now that we're in the second expansion of it being the way that it is, even with the improvements that have been made in the War Within. Like I mentioned earlier, because everybody is affected by crafting, whether they like it or not, means that unfortunately huge waves of people are just not willing to deal with the crafting system anymore. And this does, to answer a question that I saw in chat a minute ago, being, do I think that we'll see changes to crafting in Profession in Midnight? I think we will. I don't know how drastic they'll be, but I do think they're going to start massively streamlining this. I think if 11.1 goes live with the enchanted crests on a vendor, rather than enchanters having new recipes to craft them via orders, I think that is a telling sign that they're going to start removing the friction from crafting. And I said hundreds of times, I made entire videos about it at the beginning of Dragonflight, that forcing everybody to use the work order system will kill the effort that's gone into crafting. The small amount of people that enjoy the new system will be massively drowned out by the waves of people that are forced to engage with crafting, because every piece of endgame activity has to deal with crafting at some point, whether you're gladiator rank PvP or you're a mythic raider or you're timing 15 keys, like whatever your endgame activity of choice is, you in some way, shape or form have to deal with the crafting system. And when it's designed in a way that is really fun to play with for a handful of people, but an absolute fucking nightmare to deal with if you don't, unfortunately, it is probably going to mean that Blizzard are going to have to start undoing some of the ties, smoothing out the rough edges. Stuff like taking one link of the chain away, e.g. enchanters making the crests first, enchanted crests first. Removing that step in the chain might be the first sign that they're going to have to start undoing a few of these restrictions, so that the masses out there that, as we mentioned, have to deal with crafting don't find it so laborious or annoying. Why did they get it wrong? Late and limited testing? I don't really think they got it wrong. I don't think it was wrong. I just think it was too restrictive. And Blizzard historically will tie something up so tight that people are forced to use that thing in the way that Blizzard want them to use that thing. Torghast is the absolute best example of this. Torghast is the absolute best example. They had this fantastic new system that clearly by design was only ever meant to be that for that one expansion, but they absolutely had to have people engage with it. There was no choice. The amount of time and effort and resources that went into designing Torghast meant that it couldn't fail. It was too expensive for it to fail. And so hence, they made it so it was mandatory for everybody that cared about any form of endgame progression had to go and do at least two Torghast runs a week to get their soul dust or whatever the fuck it was called. They forced everybody to engage with a piece of content against their greater desires in order to ensure that the system didn't flop. They kind of did the same with the crafting overhaul. They were like, right, we're going to make this work order system, but we're going to lock it down so goddamn hard and force everybody to do it. It is resulting in huge amounts of players engaging with it, but ultimately the vast majority of the player base absolutely despising it. And so things like undoing some of the restrictions of having every single piece of gear crafted being bind on pickup, maybe toning it back a little bit, give crafters the ability to craft and sell catch-up gear. That doesn't mean that you can't have catch-up gear available out in the world by playing the game. Alternatives are fine to have. Give players the choice. They can either go to the auction house and buy a set of catch-up gear, or they can go and farm some microcurrency at the end of a patch in a mini event for a couple of weeks and get a set of catch-up gear that way. Whichever way that players choose to do it, that's fine. But you look back at like Crafter's Marks were like so close to perfect. The Crafter's Mark gear in Shadowlands was very close to perfect. in the way that they implemented it. It caused... It wasn't perfect, but it was very close to perfect. And nobody really had any issues with the Crafter's Mark system particularly. Crafters loved it because every patch that turned up gave them a new Crafter's Mark to chase after and a new set of gear to then craft and sell. Players, for the most part, loved the fact that they could log on to an alt that they hadn't played in a while, spend 15, 20k gold, and get that character a template set of gear that was competitive in whatever the current content was. And it was also really nice towards the end of Shadowlands how you could sort of optimize and modify that gear with like some extra bonuses. The 9.2 Zereth Mortis catch-up gear was probably as close to perfect as a catch-up gearing system could be, I think. And then we went into Dragonflight and they nuked it and forced people to do work orders and made all of the gear bind on pickup. And in trying to force people into using the new system the way they want to, just killed it dead. Where I think they should start going back to that approach a lot more. The new Torghast is Delves. Running it 600 times to get a recipe is stupid. You're right, running it 600 times to get a recipe is stupid. Don't run it 600 times. Spend an hour and a half farming up the gold you need and just buy it off the auction house. The time spent running Delves 600 times is absolutely a waste, yeah. Agreed. Blizzard make everything they do tedious. If you want to craft a couple of pieces of gear, you had to time 4 or 5 Mythic Plus dungeons on a +8 or higher just to be able to craft a single piece of gear. I think it was 98 timed Mythic Plus dungeons for a full set of Mythic crafted gear with a currency that is then not account bound. Grinds are fine. Grinds are fine. Oh shit, I've just told this guy I can make the binding a binding. I should probably check I actually can. Oh, I do have it. Good. I just wanted to double check I did actually have that. I mean, it is an MMO in terms of the fact that people shouldn't be too scared of a grind. People shouldn't be overly scared of a grind on the basis of what's this dude even doing to this? Is he switching the missive over? Crit. He's switching it to crit haste. What's he got on it now? Haste mastery. Wow, are people really hardcore optimizing their shit that much? Big sales, 50 gold. Oh, I told him I didn't need a tip. I by default tell everybody I don't need tips. I'm in that regard, I'm part of the problem now. People can keep their gold, I don't need it. To be honest, the reason I jumped on that order more than anything was it was the binding of binding and I haven't crafted it before. I got my 10 artisans acuity, my knowledge point, first time, craft out the way. That's the main reason I did that one. Did I never make one of these? the grinds, the torrential fragments on the Ion, which can take you 1 to 4 hours, and then there is the Blizzard grinds that take days and weeks. I can't remember whether it was a YouTube short or a TikTok or something the other day of somebody saying that like World of Warcraft seems to warp time in a different way. Like if you ask somebody that's playing a video game, how long is it going to take to do X, Y, or Z? If you ask somebody how long it's going to take and they turn around and say, oh, it'll take you a while. In most video games, a while could mean, oh, it might take you half an hour. It might take you a couple of hours. In World of Warcraft, a while could be 6 months. It's like, WoW has this ability to completely warp the perception of time. And yet some people still find these things an acceptable amount of time to do them. This is why crafters and knowledge points, you know, if you somebody that's new to crafting, you tell them, oh, it's going to take you a while to catch up. They go, oh, it's going to take me a while to catch up. What are we talking, like a week or two? No. Try a month or two, right? It's like very, very warps people's perception of time. Which is kind of quite scary. Have I never made novelist specs? I've never had reason to make these. Anyway, I've spent a huge amount of time today doing absolutely nothing again. You got Ranthius up and running. I kind of did it myself, but I've had a couple of weeks where we've not been playing WoW, so it's all pent up aggression. Got to let it loose. Got to let it out. Maybe we let it out on a TSM profile instead that people have been pestering me for months to make at this point. That I've committed to doing multiple times and just never bothered. What else is important from a jewel crafting setup? The jewelry itself, we probably determine bloodstones. I started catching up in December, and I'm just now about to finish the catch up on most of the professions, and given the fact that I have nearly all professions split over 3 or 4 characters for skill trees, yeah, it can quite literally take months, which is pretty wild. Profession equipment, lavish luxuries, beautification iris. This is a toy, isn't it? Is there anything that's technically considered a lavish luxury? A remembrance stone. Maybe we should name them accordingly. Optional embellishments is another category. The main thing I want to do with this is just ensure that every crafting recipe is represented. That means it's a really nice, easy template just to quickly import, and then people can do what they want with the operations. Finishing reagents. Plus it means if I do this once, I then don't have to do it again for the rest of the expansion. Or, well, I was going to say every patch when they add new recipes, but that doesn't seem to happen, does it? Whew, too soon. PvP. Right. That's all the categories. Now let's make sure we've got every item in every category. This one probably should be renamed to... I should probably replicate the category names that Blizzard uses, as it will then be easier for people to go, oh, that's that, okay. And then we can have Magnificent Jeweler settings in there. For example, crushing, prospecting, and recrafting doesn't count. And then, did I call it reagents? Let's make sure we actually call it the proper thing, which is basic reagents. Oops. Gem cuts we are merging all into one, because then we have ambers. Ambers, emeralds. Ambers, emeralds, onyxes. Whoops. Ambers, emeralds, onyxes, rubies. Sapphires is 5. This is where my OCD kicks in. This is why I tend to put off doing this right at the very beginning of the expansion, because I know it's going to take me a fucking month of Sundays to do this for all the professions. But it will be worthwhile once it's done. Prisms we decided we didn't need a group for. Where do I get these from? Can I just go get these? How much artisan security have I got? 970. I can absolutely just go buy these. Why have I not got these? Lorendal. Lorendal, my friend. Where you be? No excuse for not having the recipes at this point.
Everything has a price.
No excuse. Already known. Already known, already known, already known. Captured Starlight. Yoink. We know the Remembrance Stone. Oh, is this then leatherworking stuff? Wait, there's got to be more than that, right? Oh, maybe that is the only one. Why does IKEA want to know my gender? I do, yeah. I wonder things like this these days. Why can you, like, I know gender identity is a huge thing on the global scale, but why every time do I buy something do people want to know that? Why is the requirement for buying a cheap sofa or some plastic spoons require me to divulge such personal information as what gender I identify as? It doesn't make any sense. There's no sense to it. Probably for statistical reasons. Oh yeah, they want it because they want their data. But if you want something of that nature, give me a 20% discount, please. And then we'll talk. I'm old school. If you want something from me, I want something from you. I promise my pillows do not care. Yeah, that's it. I'm buying new pillows. It doesn't fucking matter, does it? Jewel crafting essentials, basic reagents, optional embellishments is apparently number 3. Gems is then going to be number 4, presumably. Gems of which we have split them all in to different ones. Ambers, emeralds, onyxes, rubies, sapphires, blasphemites. Prisms we decided we don't need a group for because they're all bind on pickup and on cooldown sort of thing. Then jewellery is number 5. Jewellery is 5. The only ones that are actually going to be important to have in here are going to be the malleable band and the pendant, isn't it? Competitor crafts is then 6. Trying to mostly replicate
Adrestia says,
the default.
how do you feel the factory is finished?
Profession
My dear
equipment,
chap,
number 7.
a factory is like a fine wine. It must age and improve over time. The factory must grow and evolve to reach its full potential. Check for a Twitch Prime, old sport.
Lavish luxuries, number 8. Yeah, the Satisfactory factory is not finished. It's just more on the back burner now. There is still a few things I want to do in the factory. I want to investigate nuclear, but that's going to take me a little bit of a while, mostly because I've got to hoover up and harvest a bunch of materials and stuff to get nuclear to work properly. I also will at some point want to push towards getting the 1,000 ticket golden nut. That's like the creme de la creme of desire for Satisfactory, but the way I was doing Satisfactory content was I was very carefully trying to ensure that each stream we were working on something that was progressive in the game. Now that we've kind of completed the game, it's just sort of luxury fluff stuff. So it's not as mission critical, should we say, that we do it all speedy
Fever
and in
TV
order.
says, Stanley, the factory is closed for now. Management has decided to divert all human resources towards a new project.
That's one way to put it.
Well, it seems the factory will have a bit of a siesta, eh? No worries, old chap. Just do as the management directs. But remember, the factory must grow eventually. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Winky McWinkyson. We need to go to the City of Threads and pick up 2 of these, don't we? Alvas Valavulu. What a name. Down in the City of Threads, alright. Well, there's 2 recipes there. I should probably check, actually, to be honest. I've even got 3,000 of that flipping cash business. I don't want this dude. Wow, I have like none of this. Glad I missed the end, quote unquote end. I started oil drilling last night. I have a 2-kilometer bridge of foundations in the air, putting a travel tube on it so I can hopefully make that length. It's the way to do it. It's the way to do it. That's how it works. One of my soapbox items, I managed to get rid of it for most of the countries where the site I'm responsible for. And when we discuss it with our UX designer, we call it gender, but gender is magenta or cyan or whatever the color of the day is. Yeah, I don't understand why people are so obsessed. People are just obsessed with it more than anything. Absolutely flipping obsessed. Right, let's go grab those 2 recipes. I'm predicting 2 new professions with player housing: logging, a gathering one, and woodworking as a production one. I would love to see that. I would absolutely love to see that. I think it's about time we had a new profession, freshen things up a bit, you know. Would love me some of that. If they, regarding like the logging profession, I think what personally I would like to see. Hang on, where's the jewel crafting dude? I always get these wrong. That's leatherworking. Jewel crafting's over this way. I would more be interested in seeing gathering be homogenized into just one gathering. Whether that be logging, herbing, mining, skinning. I would more happily see that be the case. Oh, I've already learnt this on another character. Well, this is the dude that I care about having the recipes on, so you can have that one. Wait, I don't have the 50. Why does it say I don't have the 1500 cash? Didn't I just fix that problem?
Oh, see you soon. Here I am. Back to work.
Back to work. I've been a bit of an advocate for merging the gathering professions together for quite a while now. Mostly because I think there's no real reason for them to take up your entire dedicated crafting slots. And this would also coincide with me wanting them to revert. Now, this is controversial because I know, not only is this controversial, this is also hypocritical. Because I said I really liked the way that gathering had progressed, for it having spec trees and there being some level of progression with gathering. But I think there was a somewhat unforeseen outcome of them doing that, which is there is now no base level, easy access profession. Herbing and mining was always something that people could just have on an alt, could quickly level up to 100, didn't really matter. The leveling from 1 to 100 really dictated what you could pick up in the world. You know, you might need 75 skill to pick up the rare thing, but that was basically all of the progression. But it meant somebody could jump on that character, spend a couple of hours gathering materials, go put them on the auction house, make a bit of gold, they were happy, right? The profession system needs something basic, needs something simple. Now that they've taken gathering professions and added this long tail progression system to them, it's had the adverse effect of that people now don't bother. And it's another reason for people to just flat out ignore the entire side of the game that is the professions and the economy. Plus, it's given more people who don't really care a reason to try out the professions, which led to a lot more frustration with the professions, because previously they'd have probably just picked up herbalism and mining and done a bit of herbing and mining and been happy with it. Instead, they've tried to pick up and level the crafting professions, which are naturally a step up in both complexity and competitiveness for the most part, and they've then hated them even more, right? I think we need something that's just super duper mega entry level basic, and gathering of herbalism and mining was always that, and it kind of feels like we're missing. There's a big gap, right? You're either raw gold farming or you're hyper competitive in professions, and there's like nothing in the middle. There's like a stepping stone that's missing somewhere, because they kind of have made gathering. Like I said, I personally like the way the gathering is now, but I'm the kind of person that would be willing to spend time progressively over the weeks leveling it up. Most people don't want to look at herbalism and mining as something that they have to do an hour or two of every week to keep up, and that they can then be behind the curve. You know, why am I picking up why is that dude over there picking up herbs and making flipping 20k an hour when I fly around and pick up herbs and I'm only getting this quality 1 shit that nobody wants? You're telling me I've got to spend 6 months leveling up my herbalist now? Are you kidding me? This is like requiring a degree to flip burgers. It doesn't make sense. It's a little bit, it's a little bit lopsided. It's a little bit confusing and a little bit unnecessary, I think. I think they need to go one step backwards, which is that they take gathering, make it just one all-encompassing gathering. They could even go as far as making it like a straight-up secondary profession. You know, cooking, fishing, archaeology, gathering. Make it one, right? You can still have your 8 major crafting professions, of which you're allowed to pick 2, but just make gathering a secondary profession and let everybody do it. Then if people want to specialize and use their professions, it gives people more flexibility. If they feel like they want to be an alchemist, so they get cheaper potions, they can do that. But then they can also pick up herbs when they're flying around, you know? It feels a lot more sensible for like basic gathering, skinning, herbing, mining to be all one secondary profession these days, and go back to making it simplistic. Strip out all of the profession trees, strip out all of the gathering tools, get rid of all of that, because it's created something that is forces people to feel like they have to be overqualified to do such a simple thing. As a Blizzard partner, can't you just send your ideas to the ones that you just explained to Blizzard and ask them to consider? You are the voice of goblins after all. Oh, I do. I do. We have somewhat direct lines to Blizzard in order to feed back this info. But even still, it doesn't necessarily mean that our opinions are taken on board. I could go find the portal again, or we could just fly back. Half back, it's fine. Make gathering and just bake fishing into it. Fishing's alright. I don't mind fishing. Fishing almost does kind of slightly fall into that same category that I've described, as you feel as if you need to be slightly overqualified for it. But the war within fishing is actually not that bad. It's more explorative. Is that the right word? I don't know. You know, the war within fishing forces you to go around a little bit more, and there's a touch of exploration with it. And it kind of feels as if it's its own thing now. Fishing's fine, I think. The demand of like the lopsidedness of like slum sharks literally being everything is a bit of a problem, but you know, material balance is something that they're you know, it's a different topic really. What we got here? Finishing reagents. Okay, finishing reagents is after optional embellishments. Oh, damn. So that's actually 4. Gem cuts is 5. Jewellery is then 6. Why the hell did I choose to number these? Competitors' crafts will then be 7. Professional equipment will be 8. Everybody gets a +1. Lavish luxuries will then be 9. All because I wanted to keep them in the same sort of order as what is represented in the default UI. Unnecessary, but... Right, jewel crafting essentials then. Magnificent jeweler's setting. Show results as item level. Needs to go in there. In fact, we will make a subcategory of exactly that. There we go. Make it look neat and tidy. Real life fishing I like, in game no. I'm terrible at actual fishing. My brother-in-law, or well, is that even the right phrase? I don't know. My wife's sister's husband. Either way, he's got like some magical power when it comes to fishing. Like he can just pick up a fishing rod and go whoosh, and catch a fish nearly every time. I'm like, what are you doing? Why have you not made this a profession? I don't know how he manages to do it. Absolute scumbag. People who are far too good at things without any effort need to calm the fuck down. Inverted prisms. Inverted prisms. 1, 2, and 3. Why does that one not have a quality attached to it?
Jack the Dipper says, "Shut up, chat."
Welcome in, Jack.
My apologies, good sir.
Wait to make an entrance.
Jack the Dipper is experiencing a bit of a pickle. Just remember, a little bit of British charm goes a long way, eh? And don't forget to check for a Twitch Prime.
Enjoy your pickle. Enjoy your pickle, Jack. Decorative lens. Gilded vials. Oh, it's not that kind of gild, is it? Gilded vial, Q1, 2, and 3. Engraved gem cutters. 1, 2, and 3. Really annoys me that some of the quality 1 ones don't have a symbol against them. Although they then do when I put them in this list. Okay, that's because I'm putting them in by item level, which I'm led to believe is how TSM determines quality.
Flute Fever TV says, "Jack told us to shut up, so you got to tell him. Call him Little Pickle Jack."
Call him Little Pickle Jack.
Ah, a bit of banter, is it? Very well. Let's give Little Pickle Jack a jolly good reminder that in the world of gaming,
Stanley.
a bit of kindness goes much further than sharp words. Cheers.
Stanley's accidentally engaging in bullying. Oh dear. Oh dear. Legion fishing was great with the fish barrels that you can get once in a while. Now you only get 1 fish a cast. Well, Legion, you also had the fishing artifact weapon as well, didn't you? Which was quite fun. Right, is that all basic? No, marbled stone I didn't put in there. See, this is why I need to pay attention when I do this. Otherwise we miss things. Okay, marble stone's in there as well.
Jack the Dipper says, "What am I called now?" Ah, Little Pickle Jack. It seems your new moniker has quite the ring to it, doesn't it? Just a bit of friendly banter, old sport. Remember, the factory must grow, including our sense of humour.
You got the old sport in there and all. He remembers. Stanley's clearly got more of a memory on him than we give him credit for. Right, optional embellishments. Captured starlight. Three ranks of. There's additionally the elemental focusing lens. There is also prismatic nullstones. I hope that by also doing this on stream, it showcases how you can go about doing this yourself as well, if needs be. I know there's not anywhere near the same level of demand to be this precise with TSM these days, but it is equally one thing that once it's done sort of thing, which is kind of nice. Especially with how crafting is kind of now set up so that you just kind of have to, you know, you spot the thing that's profitable and craft that, and you want the process of crafting it and then selling it to be as quick as possible. Now, at the beginning of the expansion, I just hacked together groups to just make shit work. But this little bit of organization at some point is usually worthwhile. Your alternative is just wait till I finish them, and I'll put them on the TSM website, so you can just copy paste them into your TSM anyway. But if you want a setup that's laid out differently to mine, the way of doing it's not too difficult these days. Does the search in base group also give results if the item is already in a group? Let's say I want to move them from one group to another. No. No, you'd then use the search groups at the top. Right, so optional embellishments. There's the two I don't have the recipes of. Elemental focusing, prismatic nullstones, and then the one that I do, which is the captured starlight, and that's all three. Okay. Right, move on to finishing reagents. There's just the two. The ominous energy crystal. Ominous energy crystal. Sifted cave sand. And that's all from those two. Now, what I am going to do, and I also recommend anybody that's doing this in TSM, is periodically, even though it's hella annoying, is reload your UI. TSM has quite the habit of crashing when you do this. And then when you reload your UI, it won't have saved any of the shit you've already done, which is another reason why it gets so goddamn frustrating to do this sometimes. It has more of a problem with pieces of gear than it does with, like, simple defined items. If you're trying to put different types of gear in a group, do a reload frequently as to avoid errors. Or, like I said, just wait till I've done it and then steal in the groups. We got to finishing reagents, of which there's only two. Right, let's start on the gems then. I've slightly swayed from the default here. Amber cuts. Deadly amber. Masterful amber. Quick amber. Right, let's check that that's all of those. Deadly, masterful, quick, solid verse. Deadly, masterful, quick, solid verse. All 3 ranks of each. Yes, nice, beautiful. Right, emeralds. We've got... Close the ones we've done. Can I just search? I mean, I can, but I know this is also risky because it then dies on me. We need the 3 deadlies. We need the 3 masterfuls. Masterful emeralds. We need the 3 quick and the 3 verse. Did that pull them all in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, beautiful. Do the same with onyxes. Onyxes. Deadly. Deadly, quick, masterful, and versatile. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ruby. We've got masterful. Masterful, quick, verse, and deadly. Deadly. Masterful. Why does Blizzard not put these in alphabetical order? I wonder.
Jack the Dipper says, Stanley, please call Loot Fever TV from now on Mac Floofy Flu. Oh, the jolly good fun continues. Very well, we shall refer to Loot Fever TV as Mac Floofy Flu. Quite the whimsical name, I must say. Remember to check for a Twitch Prime, my good chaps.
Oh, now it might not pull some of these in, look. This might be where we start having our first hiccups in the matrix. Deadly, masterful, quick, and verse. Okay, it seems to have those. I sense an error. Let's do a reload before it goes horribly wrong. Remember, boys and girls, sticks and stones. Don't object to friendly banter, but at least keep it civil. Right. Quickly double check some of our handiwork here. Rubies, onyxes, emeralds, ambers. Yes. Right, so sapphires is next. Sapphires with 2 P's. Oh. Deadly sapphires.
Says, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Masterful. Quick and
Ah,
verse.
the age-old question. Well, my dear Adrestia, it appears that in the world of satisfactory, the factory must always come first. But do keep pondering, my dear friend.
Factory first. I like that approach. That makes sense to me. Proper fence sitter, though, today, isn't he? Good old Stan. And blasphemites. Are they all called blasphemite, roughly? Cubic, culminating, elusive, and insightful. These are ones which should be interesting to put the designs in a group as well.
Jack the Dipper says, also call Kuhani from now on Kuhani Matata. Ah, quite the creative titles we have now. Kuhani Matata. It is for dear Kuhani. A bit of fun never hurt anyone, eh? Remember, the factory must grow, including our sense of humour.
Why am I inviting myself to a group here? What's going on? Who's stealing my names? Who's inviting me to a group? Decline. Stop stealing my name. Prisms. I wonder if... Is there any easy way?
Loot Fever TV says, Stanley is my name, Loot Fever, or Mac Floofy Floof. Ah, my good Mac Floofy Floo, it seems the confusion is rife. Fear not, for in the world of Satisfactory we embrace all titles with grace. Just remember, the factory must grow, dear friend.
We did call you Mac Floofy Flo. You did. Betrayed me. Also, Blizzard normally sorts by the item ID, and those are given as items are created, or as what we also know as freestyle. Yeah. Yeah, alphabetical order is not necessarily something they go for. This is often what causes a lot of issues with TSM. Flipping item IDs. Item IDs are the bane of anybody that uses TSM on a regular basis. Do we think having the recipes that are necessary for each profession within the professions groups themselves is more worthwhile, or whether we just have a separate group for recipes and then each
Jack
of
the Dipper says, Stanley,
each of the
what are Kuhani a Loot
professions,
Fever TV and I called from now on?
each of the different professions
Well, we
recipes
have quite
in
the
here.
merry band of monikers now. Oh, Kuhani shall be Kuhani Matata. Loot Fever TV remains as MacFloofy Flu. And you, dear Jack, shall be known as Little Pickle Jack. Let the fun continue.
I legitimately didn't realise that Stanley had such a good memory for this sort of stuff. I wonder, like, I wonder where all of this where his memory is at, where it actually is, because I doubt it's saving locally. I don't know how this flipping works. He runs off ChatGPT, so like, he'll maybe it will just forever be on the internet. Maybe what's his name? Is it Sam Wiseman? What's the dude who owns OpenAI and ChatGPT? We'll know this forever.
Adrestia says, after Lizard Doggo, Stanley, Reginald and Dwight, I names the fourth Harold. Any name recommendation for if I find a fifth?
You got Stanley,
delightful
Reginald,
naming
Dwight, and
tradition, my
Harold.
dear Adrestayer. For the fifth, may I suggest the name Percival? It has a certain British charm to it, don't you agree?
Percival.
Keep those lizard doggos in high spirits.
Percival is actually quite a good one. Stanley, Reginald, Dwight, Harold, and Percival. Lovely. That's actually a cracking suggestion. Is it only going to be the malleable band and pendant? It probably is, isn't it? That's the only thing in here. So let's add... this is where we definitely want it by item level, and this is also where we have a problem
Jack the
in
Dipper
that
says,
not all
Stanley, can we call
qualities are
Mantius from now on
found.
Smeltius? Ho, Jack.
528.
Always with the jests. Feel free to call Amanthius Smeltius in good fun, but do remember the factory must grow, and so should our respect for others. Carry on, chaps.
For items like this, I'm probably only going to put the quality 5 in the groups, because realistically, that's all anybody's ever going to be able to craft. Like, you actually have a hard time crafting these at lower item levels once you've skilled up. Now, I could put the lower level ones where I have them, but I got to be careful not to put the base item in the groups, which is the 447s, because they screw shit up. So let's put the pendant. Oh wait, hang on. Do we not have sight of a 528 band? Really?
Adrestia says, who is your favorite sub? My dear Adrestea, my favorite subs are those who subscribe to Mantius on Twitch. Just remember to check for a Twitch Prime, and all will be right as rain in the gaming world.
Feel free to call Manthius Smelthius in good fun, but do remember the factory must grow, and so should our respect for others. You tell him, Stan. You tell him. Malleable band 528, 521, 518. So that's the one we need to add to the group. TSM doesn't seem to want to show it to me. Am I gonna have to craft one of these just to get TSM to see
Boggart
it?
says, hey Stanley, what do you do to people that don't subscribe through Twitch Prime? Ah, Boggart, my good chap. I simply remind them of the benefits of a Twitch Prime subscription. No harm done, just a friendly nudge in the right direction. For the factory must grow, and so should our Twitch support.
No harm done. Well, I don't know. Take Bezos's money. Take it. Take it. There you go. Now you see the 528 ones. This is why, right, making these groups can often be an absolute pain in the ass. Because TSM magically just doesn't know that certain items exist. And you have to do weird and wacky things sometimes, like craft one, just so TSM knows it's a thing. Which I don't object
Look, Fever
to,
TV
but
says,
it gets quite expensive
Stanley,
at
we
the
need a
beginning of the
fifth in the
expansion.
band of nicknames. This Adrestia shall from now on be called Adrestite Otilus. Ah, a new member joins the merry band of nicknames. Adrestea as Adrestite Otilus it is then. Splendid. Let the banter and camaraderie continue, as we all remember that the factory must grow.
How the flippin' hell did you come up with these names? I don't even know what that means. Yeah, I was looking in the base group. The base group wasn't even containing them. And certainly doesn't have all item level variations of them either. I'm not crafting one of each one at each different rank just to try and get TSM groups, unfortunately. So like where, for example, I could take all of this off in order to No. Even with all my profession tools off, I still can't actually produce these at any less than quality 5. So yeah, getting the correct items grouped for the lower tier ones is super tricky to do. And it's just going to have to be one of those scenarios where if somebody manages to come across one that has a lower item level that's then not grouped, they're just going to have to add it to the group themselves. There's a limit to what can be done sometimes.
Adrestia says, "Tell chat, it is not proper to call the Phrygian mountain goddess nicknames and explain them who Phrygian mountain goddess is." Our dear Adrestitotalus, the Phrygian mountain goddess, deserves our utmost respect.
Oh,
Let us
you
educate our
completely
merry
ignored
band
you.
on the significance of such divine figures.
Straight up
Remember,
ignored you.
in gaming and in chat,
Oh,
kindness
dear.
is key.
That's hysterical. He was like, yeah, no. Yeah, no. Maybe if you view it at the order table with different ranks. Oh, I wonder if, yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if Trade Skill Master does track what it sees via there. It doesn't track what it sees via the auction house. But maybe.
To serve you.
If I'm to go ring malleable band. See, this gives
Loot
just
Fever
the
TV
default
says,
515.
"Stanley, tell Adresthia that we don't care about some goddess here. D."
D.
Oh, good old banter, eh? Well, Adrestitotalus, it seems our band has a cheeky side. Just remember, gaming and camaraderie go hand in hand. Let's keep the fun alive, chaps.
No. It's seen the 518 version. It's seen the 518 version, but it hasn't seen others. And doesn't seem to 528. Because tooltips... TSM deals with tooltips in 2 different ways. The first way is from physical items, and these are... I think TSM tracks these as real tooltips. You also, secondly, have simulated tooltips, which is where it creates a tooltip based upon what an item could be or should be. It doesn't track the simulated tooltips in the base results until it actually sees a physical item, then it tracks it in the base group. It's really weird how it works, but there is some logic behind it. Add via item ID. That's also difficult to do because the malleable bands all share the same item ID. It's bonus IDs that differentiate them, and you can't input to groups using bonus IDs, which is why they added the add via item level. You can add a specific item via item level or by the base level. Item level is there so that you can get the end result proper items, but it's still not foolproof. Don't worry, I've done this 500 times before. I know where the limitations are, which is why I just also know that it's not worth fighting to achieve something that's not very easy to do. But yeah, the crafting order was a good shout, even if it's unfortunately not going to work. This often leads me to have real difficulty putting the PvP gear into groups because the game just has never seen half the ranks of them sometimes, and is why it's fundamentally impossible to make these groups at the beginning of an expansion. Not in detail anyway. Determined bloodstones. Bloodstones. These don't have quality, do they? Or do they? No, I don't think these do have quality, do they? So these are an easy one. Bloodstone. We got cognitive, determined, and enduring. Is it vicious as well? Are they the 4? Cognitive, enduring, determined. Where's vicious bloodstone? Oh, that's the reagent. I need to remember to put that in a group, otherwise I'll forget. That'll be one of those random materials that I forget. Yeah, the vicious bloodstone is the reagent in the first place, isn't it? When I clearly forget to put that item in a group at some point, somebody shout at me. So we've got the bloodstones. Then we got the Algari competitors' amulets. We'll have the same issue here again, that it won't necessarily have all of the ranks, so we'll just put the 558s. Right, amulet. Is the only amulet it's seen the 610? Is that... Soon as you attach competitors' heraldries to them, doesn't it then make them bind on pickup? Okay. Algari competitor's amulet. The only auction houseable version of this is the 558 version, isn't it? And for some reason, my base group doesn't have that one. Great. Oh, no it does. Now it does. It's also claimed it's rare. Recent value, market value, region, market value, average. Doesn't have a minimum buy price. I wonder if TSM has never updated the base group items for these. Has anybody, here's a question for people who may have done a bit more of this. Has anybody proactively been selling and doing these in TSM? Because I think TSM has never updated the base, the item IDs for these. So grouping them might be a nightmare. There's the design, the rare 558, which isn't actually an item. Yeah, is its pricing correct? It still indicates the correct pricing. But then it's also attaching the same details to what it thinks is an item level 610 one. Oh, what an absolute mess. TSM crafting window left hand side, 3 little dots, create profession. Yeah, that's useless. That doesn't work either. That just gives you not to mention it's also problematic that it pulls in everything from every expansion ever, which is why I choose to opt to build them manually. Those little dots is a good starting point, but when you've got nearly every recipe in the game, then it's just a problem. If I put this one in the group, how does that then replicate itself here? Okay, that's... The only issue I have with this is I then think that it's not going to bring in the correct pricing data for those first, such as when you assign operations and stuff to them. Let's see if a reload updates any of the info. I apologise because a lot of the questions are kind of hypotheticals at the moment in terms of the fact that I know the answer. I'm just trying to figure out what the solution is in my head. I've played with TSM for so many years now. I know it absolutely inside out. Sometimes I just have to rack my brain to find the right answer though. So yeah, this isn't pulling in quite the right info, although it's pulling in the correct materials at least. Let me do a quick test. Now this test is going to cause me to craft the damn thing, but it's a test all the same. I need a vicious bloodstone, and I need 40 basic marble stone. Oh, thanks. You stole my profession window. Bloodstone, a nullstone, and some basic ass marble stone. So upon crafting one of these... Oh, I need to be at the bench, do I? Of course I do. Of course I do. I know why they do crafting benches, but fuck me, I hope they get rid of them in the next expansion. Crafting benches are cancerous. Right, if we create that item, that's now given us one of these. Even when I hover over the item here, it's the tooltips are not assigning the correct data to them. If I was to just simply apply... Oh, the defaults are attached to there anyway. If I make operations, auctioning, new... and have that posting db min buy out. Not that you should ever do this, by the way, but what I suspect is what will happen is that it will fail to post because it's not pulling in db min buyout as a price source like it probably should. When we tried to sell it. Okay. The tooltip doesn't want to display it. The tooltip doesn't want to display it, but it does still find the info. Okay, well that's fine then. Fine, we'll go with that. It's not perfect, but we'll go with that. We also need the other one that's not the amulet. Signet? Is it called Signet? This puppy dog. Am I going to have the same problem with this? $5.58. Let's put that in the group. Okay. I'm going to assume that they're both going to work correctly, even though the tooltips are scuffed. That's as good as we can do. Right, profession equipment. This is another one where it sometimes goes horribly wrong. Obviously, rare stuff can't be sold. So we need Incanter's Shard. Incanter's Shard via item level. The Q5 one is 564. That one. Ha! Tooltip on this is hella busted. Look, it's got beginner crafted as a tag. I've not even ever seen that before. Okay, we'll check these in a minute. Radiant Loops. $5.64 version, that one. The one that has the tag beginner crafted. These are all ones that have fixed secondary stats as well. It's the profession tools that are also then very difficult to group because they spit out different variations of them. But the accessories rather than the tools are easier to group up, so we won't have that problem right now. Right-handed magnifying glass. Oh, Stanley, stop listening to me. Stop listening. And storyteller's glass. That one. That's just a lower item level variation. That's the Q5. That's the base item that you want to be careful and make sure you ignore. Because its pricing data's all wrong on those. Okay, is that the 4 pieces of profession gear? Yes, beautiful, wonderful. This should be the 564s of all variations. Nice, nice. And then finally, lavish luxuries, the beautification iris. Oh no, hang on, wait. Beautification iris. And now let's check that any of the recipes that are, for me at least, unlearned, make sure that I did remember to put those in groups as well. Optional embellishments, we've got the elemental focusing lens, we grouped that one up, yes. Prismatic non-lotus, yes. And then in competitors' crafts, there's the cognitive and the enduring bloodstone. Yes. And then lavish luxuries. Oh, see, this is why we check shit. Remembrance stone, we missed that one. Remembrance stone. In you go. And actually, the design, whilst we're here, can go in the jewel crafting recipes one as well. Let's do a thinky McThinkison about recipes. Any of these recipes tradable for any of these? The Magnificent Jeweler's setting has a recipe, doesn't it? Can I just search design? I could kind of half maybe possibly cheat and assume that because I'm on a monster of a server that all of the recipes will be on the auction house. So if I go recipes, jewel crafting, current expansion only, I'm going to assume this is all of them. This will also include recipes that are for bind-on pickup gear. If I do them by name, design, Algari Competitors, Amulet, Signet, Beautification Iris, which we've just put in the group already, Binding of Bindings, Binding of Binding, Cognitive Bloodstone, Cubic Blasphemer, Culminating Blasphemite, Determined Bloodstone, Determined Bloodstone, Elusive Blasphemite, Enduring Bloodstone, Fractured Gemstone Locket, Fractured Gemstone Locket, Insightful Blasphemer, or Insightful Blasphemite, sorry, and then Magnificent Jeweler's setting. Right, that should be all of the recipes. Ah, shit, it went wrong. I knew that was doing too much in one go. Fuck. Now I wonder how much of that didn't save. What? Okay, it seems to save some of it. Oh, it seems to might have actually done it. 12:34. Right, I think that's all of them. I don't really have a way to validate that that's the entire list. I don't think. I'm going to just have to assume that is. There's rarely going to be a situation where a recipe isn't available on my auction house. The advantage of being on one of the biggest servers. Okay. That feels like that could be a dual crafting setup. Now, obviously, that is not inclusive of operations here, mind, but that's at least everything in a group, neat and tidy. Everything that could be tradable with dual crafting. Or anything you might need a TSM group for. Because if they're bind on pickup endgame craft art, we haven't done materials, have we? We haven't done any materials that are. It might. I need to decide how I want to do the materials group. I think it makes more sense just to have one group for materials that has everything in, rather than trying to say, oh, these are dual crafting specific materials. No, let's just have a separate category for materials and they can all go in there. That makes a lot of sense. Right, give me 2 minutes, boys and girls. Quick break. I'm going to quick bathroom break, stretch my legs, and I'll be back in 2. Alrighty. Right. There's the base set of groups up and running then. This is kind of the approach that I would like to get for, it might take a little time, mind, but for all of the main crafting professions at least, if possible. And whilst we're doing such, we can start building the material groups and even collating all of the tradable / farmable relevant recipes for the expansion as well, all in one place. I wonder if having the wall within as the main, as the top of the tree. Right, leatherworking then. I'm pretty content that that's dual crafting done. Let's see if we can replicate something similar for leatherworking. I'll do fancy things like attach operations and stuff as and when needed. The base groups, though, I'll throw out on the internet for anybody to use. So if you like the layout and don't want to have the effort of doing all of this yourself, I'll probably just make a Discord channel where I'll link the codes, import codes for all of this, or I'll link to the TSM website maybe for these. I'll throw those all out there. If I do anything fancier with like attaching clever operations and stuff to them, they might be a Patreon only advantage. But the default groups I'll throw out there for everybody to use. Leatherworking. Right, let's try and simulate the same sort of thing again. Is there any major category that I don't have stuff for? Consumables. Why do I not have these? Defender's armor kits. Stormbound armor kits. Can we not just go buy those? Yeah, let's just go buy those. This is the advantage of having loads of arts and security lying about.
I have one-of-a-kind items.
Shit, what were they? Took me 3 seconds and I forgot what we were looking for. Defender's armor kit. Can't see it. Why can't I see it? Defender's armor kit. There we go. One of you. Stormbound armor kit. Auditor. Balls hurt. This dude. What have you got a quest for me? More carved crests? Why, thanks. Shiny bundle of goods? Oh, 2k crystals. Don't mind if I do. Why, thanks. Stormbound armor kit. That's the one. Yoink.
My thanks for your patronage.
Good cheeky little way of making sure that we've got everything as well. Right. Wait, hang on, what's this? And we got an applicant. In you come. Right, leatherworking. Reagents. Consumables. Kills me to spell it this way, but leather armor, mail armor. Who wants what? Somebody wants a ring. Okay, let's go get this crafted for this dude. This is why this little craft scan add-on, God tier, actual God tier, if whatever you're doing, you're lurking in the main capital city, you'll occasionally get a bonus order from time to time. Not that you stand to make huge amounts of gold, but cheeky 5k out of nowhere. Love that stuff. Love that. $5k richer. Right. Where was I? Where was I? Entirely can't remember where I was. Right. We were setting the groups up initially, weren't we? Reagents, consumables, leather armor, and the mail armor. This is going to encompass all of the basic leveling gear. Arathi patterns. Now this is all bind. Okay. Arathi patterns, Nerubian patterns, bestial patterns. I wonder if categorizing these as just optional crafting reagents or embellishments. Because it's either bind on pickup gear. It's bind on pickup gear or it's an embellishment, isn't it? Yeah, this is all bind on pickup stuff that doesn't technically need groups for. How do you have the crosses near the recipes? No, this is an add-on called Can I Mog It, I think. It's either Can I Mog It or it's all the things. I don't know which one. It's to indicate whether I've gained the appearance or not. People are seemingly saying it's Can I Mog It. So what I might actually do is just call the category embellishments. For those. Profession equipment. Profession equipment. Most of this is PvP crafted gear, sorry. Competitors leather.
Let's make sweet, sweet profit together.
Jargist subscribed for 8 months and says Goblino.
Jargist, thank you very much for the 8 months. I appreciate that.
Splendid to see Jargist's loyalty. Goblino indeed. Remember, the factory
Goblino.
must grow just like Jargist's dedication to the stream. Don't forget to check for a Twitch Prime subscription. Cheers.
Stanley with his sellout. My lord. My lord. No, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Goblino indeed. Competitors leather, competitors mail. And then it's just more profession equipment that I haven't unlocked. This is all of the expensive stuff. I've never bothered picking up all of these, not on this tune. I've got all of these recipes on other characters, which is why I haven't bothered to get them on this character yet. But eventually we will get there. Same with all the PvP gear. I have the recipes on my other leatherworker. Or at least some of them. Right, there's actually not as much basic stuff to go in these groups, is there? But some of it gets a little bit frustrating because getting item levels and stuff again, like we were talking about earlier. But let's have a look. Chitin armor banding. Let's do. Oh, now what? Now what? Oh, novelist specs. I can make these, right? Yes. And I need a first time craft on them. Stunned silence. Maybe somebody else got there first. Right, let's assume somebody else got there first. Right, reagents then. Carapace, backed hide, 3 qualities. We need chitin. Chitin armor bandings. Crystal fused hide. Spore coated, storm touched. Storm touched weapon wraps. Weird that these are considered a reagent, but they are, I suppose. And then writhing hide. Right. Quick sanity check that that's everything. Carapace backed hide, chitin armor bandings, 3 qualities, crystal fused 3, lay fused 3, spore coated 3, storm touched and writhing. Okay, that seems to be all of those. Nice. Consumables then. Defender's armor kit. Oh, that's something I need to do with Jawn crafting, is check that I didn't categorize any of the bind on pickup recipes, because they don't need to be in the TSM group, do they? Double check that in a minute. Stormbound armor kit. 1, 2, 3. Drums. Times 1. Dual layered. Times 3. Defenders, quality 1, 2, 3, dual layered 1, 2, 3, stormbound 1, 2, 3, and thunderous drums times 1. Thunderous drums times 1. There we go. Nice. Drums, to be fair, could probably... Drums probably needs its own separate group, because the way that you're going to sell those is probably going to be significantly different to armor kits. So it might not be a terrible idea to split those out. As thunderous drums, put them in a group by themselves, simply because I know full well that people will be like, oh, well, I don't want to sell armor kits in stacks of 1 billion, but drums I might. Even though nobody really buys and sells drums by the looks of things. It's just a way. A drum's now realistically more than anything a way for farmers to get rid of some cheap shit. Outrageously expensive. Surely nobody uses these. The fact that the region average daily sold is like 200 is a strong indication that nobody using thunderous drums. What's the go-to drums these days, boys and girls, or is there just not? Is it just that people rely on having somebody that can actually press a button rather than use it? Because drums are only 15% haste instead of... Bloodlust is 25, isn't it? Was it 20? I can't. Shows how much I don't play the end game. What do I use concentration on for leatherworking? I don't. Your concentration is best off used to fill the gap when you can't quite craft something at quality 5 for people. Concentration is basically there to allow you to complete more orders than you naturally should be able to. But there's nothing really you can craft to sell on the auction house that's particularly valuable with leatherworking. I was lost 30% these days. Okay, nice. So yeah, that's probably all the more reason why nobody uses drums. Oh well, that's not my concern right now. My concern is getting everything in a nice, neat and tidy, organised group. Right, leather armour. Practiced the spunky set. Right. Leather armour. Spelunkers. Practiced hat. We have the need for... What's the item level of the Q5s? We need 558s. 558s is the ones we really want to try and get our hands on. 551. Did I say 558 or 548? 558 is the one we need. Which is neither of those. Wow, that's mighty annoying. That's a good start. That's a good start, isn't it? That's a real good start. Oh, game, don't make me craft all of this just to get the right item level stuff. There we go. There's the right hat. Breeches. Stupid name. 558. No, wrong one. Wrong one. There it is. Practiced shoulders. God, I'm going to have to make one of everything, aren't I? Not even a leather wearer. Leather jerkin. Oh, now these I've got to be careful with. These have a different item level, don't they? These are lower. 528s. No, we still need to make one of those. Foot pads. These are also 528s. And then leather bands. Right, that should then be a full set of the highest item level Q5 versions of those. That looks right, doesn't it? That looks about right. We'll go with that. Nice. Now to replicate the same for mail armor. Trackers toughened. Wow, I haven't even seen half of these pieces. Never mind, got the right item level variants for them. Okay, I guess we go the theory of just craft one of every one. Make sure we get the right one first time. Headgear. Links. Shoulder guards. Girdle. Lust is 30%. That's a bit low for Valentine's Day. Yeah, there should be 100% lust bonus today, just for one day. Admittedly, that would mean that all if they did that in World of Warcraft, if they boosted lust to 100% just for one day, it would have the knock-on effect that it would force everybody to, instead of spending time with their significant other today, they'd be like, sorry, got a raid, we've got to kill bosses today, 100% lust bonus. That'd be Blizzard's way to make sure there's no drop in engagement for today. Then again, gamers are all a bunch of virgins anyway, isn't it? So, don't matter. Trackers, chitin. Chitin, these are now 528. That one. Galoshes is 528s. No, we've seen some of them, but not the 528s. And then cuffs. No, still haven't seen the top tier versions of these. My TSM data is useless. Okay, we got there eventually, but we managed to get full leather and mail items at Q5, which is realistically a good template to start with. If you happen to craft them or have them at lower levels, you're just going to have to add them to the groups yourself, but the groups are there.
Loot Fever TV says, Stanley, what do you think of the fact that lust is only 30% on today? Valentine's Day? Oh, dear Loot Fever TV. Perhaps the factory needs some more love injected into it today. Remember,
A little bit more loving.
balance is key. And on Valentine's Day, a little extra love can make all the difference. Cheers.
All right, Stanley. Fucking hornball. Relax. Jesus. This is family friendly. Right. We decided he called women factories. Perhaps the factory needs some more love injected to it today. Yeah, I don't think that's exactly what he was going with. Animals. A lot of you. Right, blessed weapon grips. One, two, three. The writhing armor banding. Okay. That's the 2, right? We'll get to these ones in a minute. Right, profession equipment. Hang on, I haven't done a reload in ages, which scares me doing TSM stuff. Yeah, you're gonna get poor Stanley cancelled. What will that do to OpenAI stock prices if you cancel Stanley? He's literally propping them up right now. I don't want to look at what my OpenAI ChatGPT bill is going to be at the end of the month. Poor Stan. Poor Stan. Profession equipment. Are these all still mostly accessories? They are, yeah. Which makes the grouping of them easier because they're all fixed stats on them. No item variations to contest with. So when we do blacksmithing, it's going to hurt because they're all of the weapons and tools, and they're flipping horrible to get in the right groups because they're all different. Right, okay. Apothecary's cap at 564, preferably. 564. Nice. They've been given the tag beginner crafted, and I wonder if that's the thing that TSM has done to differentiate them from the others. As I don't think TSM's pulled that from the game files. Apothecary's cap. Steelsmith's apron. Gem cutter apron. 564, that one. Scrapsmith gloves. Hide shaper covers. Wait. Hide Seeker's pack doesn't exist? Okay, there's an easy way to fix that. You just make one. Oh, it's Hide Seeker. Oh, shit. Whoops. Nobody saw that. Oh, well. Now we have one to sell. Whoops. Hide Seeker's pack. Gardener's basket. Wait, can I just not spell? Yeah. It's often the result. Mantheus just can't spell to save his life. What's the name of the damage meter add-on you use? It looks gorgeous. It's just details, but it's got a skin on it. Give me a second and I'll remind you what it is. Hide Seeker's hat. Right, let's just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different variants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And these should all be the 564 variants if I've done it correctly. Yeah. Yeah, it's just details, but with a skin. I can't remember what or how I did it. Skins. Yeah, it's just called the wall within skin. I don't think it's there by default. It's one you have to download. Using the import custom skin thing. Where did I get it from though? Does anybody remember? Well, here we go. I'll give you a link. Give you a link. I actually stole this from Mr. GM. I saw him using it, and I was like, that's cool. Yoink, we'll have that one. Hang on, who's this? Looking for leatherworking, recraft with price, whisper price. It's a bit difficult when you don't say what you want recrafted. $1 billion. Right, now we need to do all of the stuff that is for recipes that I don't actually know yet, which might make this a problem. Right. This is all the PvP base leather gear that I don't have, but it, not PvP, sorry, bind on pickup, so it doesn't need to be in TSM groups. Bind on pickup, bind on pickup, bind on pickup, bind on pickup. So none of this needs grouping up because you can't trade it, move it, do anything with it. Okay, now we need to try and get some 558 Algari competitors groups put together. And secondly, this will be a good opportunity to go put the recipes in there. Wanted to just double check that these are all of the bind on pickup recipes. Sorry, bind on equip recipes that are tradable, not the bind on pickup ones. There's no point having... remembrance stones, bind on pickup. That, for example, doesn't need to be in there. Laters. Okay. Who be that? This dude wants gear made, like, literally every day. Right, Algari competitors. Is it all called leather? This will make it a little bit easier to find. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's put the recipes in there. Make that easier. $577. What random ass quality is that? Why is it tagging them all as 577? Okay, I'm going to guesstimate. I'm going to guesstimate that I might need to craft one of each of these. Oh, which is remarkably difficult when I don't have the flipping recipe. Alright, I might need to buy one of each of these. That's another option. Are there new recipes in the new season? One here that doesn't know how to read data notes. The reality is no. There is a small handful of recipes, but nothing more than like the absolute bare minimum. There's a new contract for scribes. There's a new Vantis rune for scribes. There's a new leather working armor kit. There's a new cooking recipe. There's really not a lot. The answer is not anything that's worth getting excited about, unfortunately. Right, here's the full 558s. Sounds like big Sag. There's not a lot we can do. If I do a shopping scan for those. Then it will fill my base item group with them. Means I don't have to piss about buying them. In theory, at least. Now I just got to get the right ones. So what did I decide? That the Q5s are 558. So let's start with the belt. Leather belt. 558, there we go. Boots. It's going to be all these ones, isn't it? It's going to be the ones that it says are rare, even though they're not. Chest piece. Gloves. Mask. Shoulder pads. Oh, we've got two options here. Let's get the 558s. Trousers. And then finally, wrist wraps. Okay. That should then be... Oh shit, did I put them all in leather armor? Whoops. They're meant to go in here. Okay, now the same for mail. Hungary competitors chainmail. Patterns here. Oh, no, they are just called chain, aren't they? Populate the list. Go, go, go. Who's this character? Jesus. What a wackadoodle character name. That screams bot, if ever I've seen one. This is what I mean about playing with fire. There's only one reason why you do this yourself, and that is to make it nearly impossible for somebody to write your name out in a report window. Screams Sussaroonies. Right, okay. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 recipes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 recipes. You go in there to start with. So it basically doesn't matter buying the Artisan Acuity bags now after Season 2's launch. Technically true, yet you might as well just wait, because that's the only way to make sure that you definitely don't lose, right? Because we don't know. Blizzard could have very deliberately kept all of the new crafting stuff a secret. Or, you know, they could have added stuff to the loot table and we don't know. Unless you are absolutely desperate to spend your Artisan Security for some reason, I'd still just wait. That way you can't actually lose. No need to take a risk when it's not necessary to take a risk, if you know what I mean. Right, chain mail. Cowl. Cuffs. It should just be all these blue ones, but I will micromanage them and double check just to ensure that we get it right. Legs. Then treads. Right, that should now be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Beautiful, beautiful. Getting there. That might be leatherworking done now, because these ones are all the bind on, pick up, top tier stuff. I'm pretty sure. Nice. Nice. Artisan Acuity bags can drop recipes if opened on non-level 80 characters. I would assume so. I can't see any reason why not. There's no level requirement on using the recipes, to my knowledge. That would be a very weird thing to enforce. Okay, that feels like that's the leatherworking group's done. What I could and probably should do is just ever so quickly double check that there's no recipes. I'm thinking leatherworking is the only tradable recipes are the PvP recipes. I'm pretty sure of it. Leatherworking, make sure current expansion only. Oh, no, of course it won't be, will it? Because all of these are patterns as well. So let's go. What are we looking for then? Adrenal Surge's Clasp is one. All the PvP stuff. The Busy Bee's Buckle. Busy Bee's Buckle. Hang on, I might do these one at a time because it crashed it last time. Ha! Just like that. Well, that was good timing, wasn't it? I had a sneaky suspicion it was going to crash it. But I think you need the Kazongar profession. I don't think anybody's categorically proven that. I think the loot table for those bags is pretty generic. I don't think anybody's going to have opened enough of them in a controlled way to really figure that sort of stuff out, though. I mean, it wouldn't help to make sure you do have the profession at least, if you're fishing for a specific recipe, or if you're just looking for them in order to then sell them. I don't think it matters. You should probably never consider those recipes as the thing that you're after anyway. They should just be the nice happy bonus if you do get them. Would be the way I'd do it anyway. Busy Bee's buckle. Gloves of the Great Father? Why is this? That's a classic recipe. That's got nothing to do with this expansion. Reinforced flyers. Roiling Thunderstrike Talons. Rook Feather Wrist Wrap Pattern. Sanctified Torchbearer's Grips. Okay. Relatively confident then that's going to be all of the leatherworking recipes that we have currently. Obviously 11.1 is going to add one extra armor kit to it, but that's, to my understanding, not tradable. It's bought off a vendor, so it wouldn't go on this TSM list anyway. Now obviously the armor kit would go in here, which I might need to consider before I publish these groups. Not that there's a lot coming in 11.1, but I should at least make them ready for 11.1. You could have farmed the Artisan Security as a herbalist and then bought the Enchanter's bags to get a recipe. I'm not sure if you need Kazongar enchanting to get the recipe, but as Matthew said, nobody's really proven or disproven it. Yeah, I tend to lead with an air of caution on that sort of stuff. Like, if that's what you're trying to do, if you are specifically trying to hunt an exact recipe down, you might probably want to make sure that the character that opens the bag has the... there's no harm in doing that, really. Unless, of course, it means you have to drop professions to do it, and then I just wouldn't bother. But, like I said, those 600 Artisan Security bags should just be... And if you've got absolutely nothing else that you want to spend the Artisan Security on, consider it giving you a couple of thousand gold of materials. And if you get a recipe, great. I wouldn't actively be trying to do any shenanigans to improve your odds, because nobody's really proven that anything does improve your odds. It's probably just like everything else in the game. There's a big old loot list, and there's a random chance you get any of the items off the list. Oh, wait, hang on. That's got another eye in it somewhere. There we go. Right, I think that's both jewel crafting and leatherworking completed. Do I think that there is ever a scenario where you would want more subcategorized? This is something I've not really decided. Is it going to be that people would want to categorize and sell quality 3s in a different way to quality 2s and 1s? Well, if they've got the basic layout of groups, they can make that customization themselves if they need to. My goal here is not to make decisions for people, but to give people a good template starting point for each profession, really. That if you want to add subcategories to them and apply very specific operations to very specific items, you can do that yourself. But if you just want some basic groups as a good foundation, these should work. Much like the lower level ones might end up having a significantly cheaper price or so. I don't know. People will do their own thing with it. But I think for the most part, that's a pretty solid setup for both. So far, jewel crafting and leatherworking. We will get there. We will get there. I didn't really expect it to take quite... Well, that's a lie. I absolutely categorically knew that making these groups takes flipping ages, which is why I've been putting it off for like forever. But considering we're nearly at the first major content patch of the expansion, I probably should have got them done by now. For reference, these groups will just be shared out for anybody that wants them as well. I will attach them to the within the Discord. So if you're not in the Discord, jump in there. I'll get them linked in the Discord so people can copy these into their own profiles. But right, I think, boys and girls, considering it is Friday, considering it is Valentine's Day as well, I might leave it there for now. I'm probably going to take a few days off at this point. I've been streaming pretty much every day religiously for about a month now. I think I think it would be smart of me to take a couple of days off for the weekend, especially since we've mostly finished with Satisfactory. Not 100% finished, but we completed the base version of the game at least. We are now in the run-up to 11.1, which is why I'm getting some of this sort of like busy work out the way. We'll be able to spend a bit of time on the PTR doing one last sort of sweep of the PTR before 11.1 launches. And next week, for the majority, we may pick another game to just dabble in and have a play with, as we've got... If we technically still have like 10 days until 11.1's launch, so there's time to squeeze in another little game there, I think, somewhere, in some way, shape or form. But enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you very much for stopping by, I appreciate it. Feel free to jump into the Discord, come say hi. And yeah, I will see you all on Monday. Here's the question, is there anybody online at this time of day to share the love with? Let's have a little bit of a looky. I always feel as if we should share the love. I often forget to share the love. Oh, Civ's online. Civ's online. And he's just come online as well. He's going to be hunting some mounts. Civ is often lurking in the background. He tends to do morning streams, much like myself, so it could be another alternative to... could be a good alternative to me for as and when I am taking a day off, potentially. Let's send a raid that way. Let's press the buttons. Buttons, where's the buttons? Civ does a whole bunch of mount farming, I believe, is one thing he strives for, and probably, knowing me, has significantly more mounts as well. So let's send everybody over there. Go say hi to Civ. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, boys and girls. Have a good one. Peace.